Welcome to the Deerfield Theater Podcast. In this season, we're talking about Deerfield's production of Shrek the Musical. In case you're tuning in and didn't already know, Deerfield Theater's putting on a production of Shrek the Musical this November of 2025, and performances start Friday, November 14th, and go through Sunday, November 23rd. So while you're listening to this episode, visit the link in the show notes and get your tickets. Without further delay, here's the interview. I'm thrilled to have with me on this episode of the Deerfield Theater Podcast, Sebastian Fabal. Welcome to the show.
Very happy to be here.
And just want to encourage everybody, if you're just listening to this podcast still, you could subscribe at deerfieldtheater.substack.com, and you could actually get a look at us and our ugly mugs. And you could see that if I just grew up my 5 o'clock shadow a little bit more, maybe you'd be wondering who's who. But I'm encouraging everybody to go to the YouTube channel or subscribe to our Substack if you want to see the videos. Well, Sebastian, really excited to have you here for this season of the podcast for Shrek, the musical. So tell us about why audition for Shrek? What are you thinking about and looking forward to about playing Farquaad?
Yeah, lots of questions to answer. I think first and foremost, Shrek. The story of Shrek is needed now probably more than ever, and I know that's something that the artistic team mentioned at our first read through. It's incredibly true. It's appreciating all the things that make us different and how we can come together, and even against my character's wishes of kind of living harmoniously together, kind of second guessing first impressions of each other. And I think that's a story that needs to be sung as loud as humanly possible right now. So that's a big reason. Personally, I've been getting back into performing on stage, and I've done a lot of mean roles, bad characters, and I'm playing another one now. But like, I actually haven't done a comedy in quite some time. So there's also the last role I did was Dan in Next to Normal. So frankly, going from Next to Normal, I'm like, I needed a palate cleanser. So Shrek, in addition to it being a great show that needs to be told, personally, I need to do something different than Dan from Next to Normal. And Lord Farquaad is about as 180 as I think you can get. So I'm really, really happy to just play completely opposite as to what I've probably been doing recently. And then the third biggest reason, I have two girls who are 10 and 8, and the shows I've done haven't necessarily been kid friendly. So I'm actually really looking forward to having my two daughters come and see the show multiple times. They're going to bring their friends. I mean, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, fellow daughter dad here. Just the one who's 5 years old, though, almost. So she's coming. And Shrek, she's a little young
Yeah,
for Shrek, but she's been watching the 3 movies, and she is, like,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
ready for it. You're so ready.
totally.
And look, like, yes, there's adult humor in Shrek, but it is so over the heads of like, kids, right? Like, they don't have the context for that.
Absolutely.
What's been your experience at rehearsals? And just a reminder to all the listeners, if you didn't catch last episode, we're early in rehearsals at the time of recording, so we're
Yeah.
only a few weeks into it, but, tell me, like, what can we expect in terms of, like, all ages appropriate humor compared to maybe some more adult humor in the show?
Yeah, boy. So I will say this: Lord Farquaad, very important character, probably only in about 20 pages of the show, which is lovely. I will say this because like we're learning all the choreography, all the dances, of which I'm only in one number. Like I haven't seen I haven't seen Shrek since the read through. Because there hasn't been any, we don't sing any songs together or anything like that. But I can tell you, we've done the Gingy scene thus far, the gumdrop button, and I think the biggest thing that I love about it, we're still playing, we are still trying things out, but just the level of care everyone in the cast has, like, just try something different, make a different choice this time. Like we understand that while all these characters, I mean, there's a movie where you could see the platonic ideal of these characters, but yet it's on us in a live production to find what makes it right for us. What's my interpretation of Lord Farquaad? Not just the movie or Chris Sieber on Broadway. And everyone is just so open to everyone just making different choices and playing along with it. Like I've only been to a handful of rehearsals, but they've been so much fun that I wish that I had more rehearsal right now. I know that's going to come soon, but like it's just been so much fun, and I just sit like, when's my next rehearsal?
Yeah, yeah, and so we're all wondering, because I know, because Matt was in Beauty and the Beast, that I know he's tall because he played our Gaston. So we're all
Yeah.
wondering, does he tower over you? Like, how are we working with the blocking on, like,
Man,
him being taller than you?
so I haven't done a scene with him yet, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
But in the read through, we did just kind of, I got on my knees and we got a sense as to, what this is going to look like. I'm 6 feet tall, and like okay, I'm not going to lie. The one of the first dance rehearsals, the next day, like my back just kind of like seized up my neck, And I went to my chiropractor. I'm like, what happened? Like, I have to play this character, and I'm looking up, and she said, how often in life do you look up at things? And I'm like, well, I'm generally the tallest person, almost everywhere I go. And it's not just 6'3" person, just like a little lift. Like, no, like I'm having to look up like this and realize, oh, but now I do a warm up regimen for my neck, for my lower back, just to make sure like I'm moving appropriately. So this show, the height difference is going to be there, and I'm going to be prepared to do it 4 times a weekend. The physicality for this role, the physicality of this production, like yeah, I definitely underestimated it. But during auditions, I was impressed how I was like one of the smallest people there. Again, as a 6 foot person, like I'm not used to being the smallest person. Anything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. This the cat. Yeah, requires it's a taller show. It's a taller kind of show. Shrek the
It's a
musical.
taller show. And even Matt wasn't the tallest, potential Shrek. Like we had another person like 6'5", 6'6". I'm like, wow, I can be Lord Farquaad and truly be small.
Right, right. I really like that because sometimes if the episode calls for it, we talk a little bit about theater in the musical theater world in the abstract, right? Of like things like that. But I like that there's like physical warm ups required too. And yes, I suppose dancing. Like if you're into dancing, you got to physically warm up. But like and you got again, I highly encourage people to look at the video for this one. Sebastian's got like these guitars and musical instruments in the background. So tell us a little bit in a moment here about just your background in general. But with music and with singing, you got to warm up. Like you warm up your voice. You have to, like and all that. So now, you have this very physical role, and you got to warm up your shoulders, warm up your neck. It's like you're getting ready to like go play a sport, but the sport is
Yeah.
live musical theater.
Yeah. Listen, theater is a full contact sport. I have always said it. And frankly, as I've talked to some of my friends, I've talked, oh, I'm doing this role. Like I have a really, really good friend of mine who is a professional stunt guy in Atlanta. So he's actually going to give me like some of his like stunt knee pads just to really make sure I keep myself safe. But, he's well connected in the industry. And he's like, yeah, I talked to people who play Lord Farquaad, and like all of them say, like, you can only do this role for like 6 months, maybe. And like, you need to be really taking care of your body. Like, it is very, very easy to underestimate the work that has to go into this, right? But for what it's worth, like, that's the fun. Like, I like that. I like that I have to kind of maybe live a little bit differently to put on a great show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe it's a good thing that it's only 20 pages worth of material.
Yes. I wasn't going to say that quiet part out loud, but yes, absolutely. My knees are going to be grateful.
Yeah, yeah. So Farquaad definitely doesn't sing. I mean, the movie's not a musical, right? Like Farquaad's not singing in
Yeah.
in the movie, not nor is really anybody. So what is that like to take on like this role? And I have to imagine that our audience that will be attending this, the majority of them maybe have not seen Shrek the musical before, right? Like more likely,
Probably,
yeah,
yeah.
more likely than not, this might be their first exposure to the musical version of the material. So like, what's it like to have this character who maybe people are going to not know the singing version of Farquaad, and yet this is what you'll be singing.
I mean, is that not just like, the power of musical theater? And I mean, I will say, I do think Shrek the Musical is a great adaptation of the original movie as well, right? Like sometimes musicals don't always get it right. That phrase of, the book was better. But I don't know, like Shrek the movie is great. But I think Shrek the Musical, and I go, it's a pretty good adaptation of like a really iconic property. Like this could have been a bad musical, right? It is not a bad musical, right? So with that, I think what musicals give that I think an audience is immediately willing to go along for the ride with is the singing does it, right? Like the notion of like, musicals are when you can't say you sing, and when you can't sing you dance, right? And I do think that you are afforded a level of expression through song that's what makes the art form just so natural, right? So you're right. You're not going to get the experience you thought you get from the movie. You're actually going to get something completely different, and I would argue something better as a result of it. Right? Like music is subtext. Right? Farquaad says things, but the music underneath it, like people innately understand that. Children understand music, even though they can't tell you why, and that's why people are going to enjoy Lord Farquaad, because unlike the movie, you do get part of his origin story.
Mhm.
You kind of understand why he is how he is, why he's short. I don't know, and he's a character with depth in the musical that, frankly, I don't think he otherwise had in the movie.
So John Lithgow voices Farquaad in the movie, and since this is an animated property translated to live theater, the voices are somewhat iconic, right? And of course, we talked about
Yeah,
this with Matt of like, he's going to have to do the accent, right? But with Farquaad, like, and I'm kind of getting this sense from you already, since you are a taller person, I can tell your voice is in a deeper register. You're like almost naturally just your normal voice might sound as though you are a bigger than you actually are physically, as Farquaad. But
yeah,
like Lithgow definitely played that role of like trying to be more imposing, in his voice and like
yeah.
bigger than he actually physically was. So like, where do you take inspiration and then where do you sort of make your own different choices?
I mean, this might sound really, really bad, but like I have not watched the movie since I've been cast.
Okay.
I don't plan to watch the movie,
Yeah.
in large part because I don't want that to overly influence it. Like I don't want to be Sebastian playing John Lithgow playing, Lord
Right.
Farquaad. I don't want to be Sebastian playing Christopher Sieber, who he's magical on stage in anything he does, particularly this role. Like that's not what people have come to see. That's not what I want to do, right? So I actually do think like I spend so much time thinking about the actual character work because how do I make Farquaad my own? Also knowing that like there's a Muffin Man repartee that has to happen, and anyone on the street can probably quote that, and I do need to do that justice,
Right.
right?
Right.
So there's a level of understanding the guardrails that frankly like society has probably placed on the role, or pop culture society has placed on it, and then where can I get to play in that to make it my own? You know. And also, that's the challenge. That's the fun, right? That's why doing this role is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So we're excited. This is your first time with Deerfield Theater. And so because of that, will be our audience's first time, seeing you perform for us. And we get people from all over. Like I literally have people who are like in for like one of the weekends and they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's a show happening because I'd love to come see it." So like
That's awesome.
people come, like it's not just local, like it's bigger than local. But tell our listeners and our future audience of Shrek a little bit more about yourself and your background and what drew you to want to even act in this show.
Yeah. So I'm from Miami, Florida. So fun fact, I still don't really know where all the suburbs are in Chicago. I had to look in a map where Deerfield was before deciding to do this. When I lived there, did my undergrad at Florida State University in Tallahassee in music theory and theater. Then I got my master's degree in the highly coveted field of musical theater writing at NYU. The classic story, fell in love with a girl who happened to be from Chicago. And once our time in New York City was up, we moved here to start a family. And frankly, participate in the theater community in Chicago. The Chicago theater community is second to none. Like Second City, sure, not in terms of the accessibility, in terms of playing a part in the greater theater scene here, right? I This is a very, very special place, and I could not be happier to have left New York, the supposed epicenter of theater, come to Chicago and make this my home and contribute to the theater scene here. I've done that a number of different ways because I still write. I've been produced. I get commissioned. It's lovely. I do primarily TYA works, which is awesome and fun to just write things that I can have my kids sing to know if it's good or not,
Yeah.
which is lovely. I have taught musical theater writing in the greater Chicago area for well over a decade. I just finished up, a weekend intensive at Paramount all the way out in Aurora. So it's really great to kind of be around and helping foster, Chicago as a community for the creation of musical theater. Part of that I ran during the pandemic underscore musical theater company. It was a theater company solely focused on the creation of new musical theater, specifically here in Chicago, and that was great. Unfortunately, did that during the pandemic, so that was an interesting experience. And then after all that, I kind of needed to get re in touch with why I love theater so much. I mean, this industry can be hard, has its ups and downs, and decided I wanted to start acting again, just to get some really positive theater memories, and that's led me to do I think 5, 6 shows in the span of 3 years, and leading me all the way up to Deerfield to do Shrek, and I truly could not be happier.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I mean, what a background. Curious to know. Let's pull on that thread about like the pandemic times because being in this industry, even like professionally,
Yeah,
that was tough for everyone. I mean, it's tough for everyone across the board, but like in particular, the performing arts were hit super hard. So, what was that experience like?
yeah. I mean, to be blunt, a struggle. I mean, obviously, not only were productions shut down, things just became infinitely more difficult to manage, like on a balance sheet, right? Like you couldn't fill a theater. You can only fill a third of a theater, which meant you only do a third of ticket sales. And the costs to build a set to pay actors weren't a third left, right?
Right.
So there's a good reason why so many storefront theaters here in Chicago just didn't have the resourcing to stick around. The things that did, community theater was able to find a way to bring people back because community theater tends to not have the same sort of bottom line as say like an actual small storefront theater business in the city of Chicago. But I'll say the hardest transition was particularly with teaching. Theater's meant to be felt, right? It's meant to be felt, and it's supposed to be in the same room as the people on that stage. And I always say, like with my own writing, the audience is always the final collaborator of any piece of art, right? I would actually argue that it's not a piece of art if it doesn't have an audience, right? So finding ways to hone craft, to teach master classes, even to like watch a show that was going to stream online, which granted is better than nothing. It was something that had to be done during a time that required it. Like I think we all can agree that the magic you expected wasn't there, which was hard. There was something different created from it that wasn't totally bad, but it was a struggle for people to feel like they were contributing either from a patronage standpoint or a creation standpoint during the pandemic because we lost the most important thing that theater requires, which is that live engagement.
Mhm. Wow.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. I think the pandemic was bad in so many ways, but it was good in other ways too, right? So this appreciation that I think we all have now for live theater, for
Yeah.
being in person, for, you coming back and acting, post the pandemic, right? Like,
It was the pandemic that contributed to that. Yes, I'm happy to be back because of the
right,
pandemic.
right, right. And I think, in my work I actually use AI a lot. And I actually think it's a good
Yeah,
thing in a lot of ways. And it lets us do the things that the AI can't do and can't replace, like even better and spend more time doing that. And I think one of those things is, live theater, the performing arts, right? Like I am not interested in robots doing Shakespeare. I mean, it might be an interesting
yeah,
novelty, like at first, right? But like
yeah,
we're gonna go back, like nobody watches robots play chess or AI play chess. We still watch humans play chess.
yeah,
And yeah, like robots playing sports, like maybe that might be interesting a little bit more. But like the humans doing human things, like the AI is
yeah.
not going to replace that.
No, and I think what makes humans humans are like the fallibility of it all as well. The small changes, the slight decisions that are made, just because maybe you stepped a quarter inch to the left in a weird way. I don't know. Like that is the magic of theater. The fact that it's not going to be perfect, that it's not going to be cookie cutter,
Yeah.
right? That's life.
Yeah. 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 So I do like to ask some of the same questions I ask of all the guests on the show. And you've only been acting, I guess, for a few years, but I still like to ask you the question is what have been some of the favorite shows that you've been in?
So my favorites. So what first got me back into theater was The Right Show, and it was Parade all the way out in Palatine. I got to play Tom Watson, sings Hammer of Justice, Where You Stand When the Flood Falls, and it was kind of a nice way to be like, okay, I can. This is like a meaty singing role, and a kind of a baritone. So I have like a more muscular baritone voice.
Mhm.
So man, just like wailing F sharps and G's, to like probably an all time favorite score was like, oh yeah, this is really, really, really fun, And then that quickly turned into I did the Full Monty, which is one of my favorite shows, and I got to play Jerry. So again, my girls couldn't see
No, no,
Parade.
no, no.
but My girls couldn't see the Full Monty.
I mean, maybe they got to see when they were growing up as kids. They got
Yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah.
daddy
Well,
getting out of
they
the
didn't get to see
shower.
the
They
show.
got to see the show in a different way. Right? I have a daughter.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know what that was like when she. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so much fun. And actually, I worked with Christine, the choreographer, on both those two shows. So Christine is kind of a way into me doing this as well, just as, I don't feel totally, new here. So Jerry Lakowski was a dream role I've always wanted to play. I'm getting a little bit older, so I knew I didn't have a whole lot more time to do it. Got to do it. It was great. Did Assassins after that. Got to play Cholgosh, which was also just a great role. I got to sing the gun song, which is, again, probably top 10 favorite song ever written. And then did Next to Normal all the way out in Elgin, which I got to play Dan, which again, another dream role, a role that I would love to play again. But again, all shows that my children have not been able to see.
Right, right. And then putting on your audience hat, member, like when you're like a member of
Yeah.
the audience, what have been some of the favorite shows that you've got to experience just sitting in the seats?
Oh man. Are we talking like all time
Oh yeah,
or like in
all
Chicago?
time, anywhere, local theater, Broadway, anytime, all time.
Eh, Oh man, that is a big question. Okay, so I saw Sleep No More, which isn't a musical, but that's a long run. I think it just recently closed, but they took over a hotel in like Chelsea. That's a part of New York City, and it's like 5 floors. You get to walk around, totally immersive, interactive Macbeth. And I'll tell you the coolest thing about it was they made everyone wear masks. And as a student of theater, we need to understand what are the boundaries that we're setting for the audience, right? And there's something about, hey, when you put a mask on, like even though immersive, you can literally walk next to the actors, like you're kind of guarded, right? Like and I don't remember the specifics, but I remember one of the actresses on one of the floors like pointed towards me and said, "Come here." And I went inside a room, and it was just me and this actress inside a room, right? And she looks at me through like the mirror, like kind of reflection to the mirror, making eye contact with me, turns towards me, and she takes off my mask. And like all of a sudden the rules of theater, the audience contracts were like gone. I'm like, "Oh," and she started reciting Shakespeare to me, took off my mask, started reciting Shakespeare. I cannot tell you what she said because again, as a student of theater, just thinking like, this is just raw, this is not happening, cannot compute this is, but this is real, right? And like that visceral feeling, like I feel like I chase with anything I watch, right? Like it's so visceral. It's like you're feeling it in your core in a way that you're like, I'm human, right? Like I'm being like my adrenaline is running in a way that like I can't disassociate from the feeling. And that is the feeling that I had there. Like it was just visceral in a way that like was just so great. I wish it upon everyone. It is why we do theater, to chase that high. So
Yeah,
now you got to cut that out, but that's why.
probably. I'll get some of that in there, Sebastian. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I might even leave this part in so people are like, "Ooh, what did he cut?" So I mean, yeah, that is next level, live experience. That's
Yeah.
hard to top. And I'm sure you've seen some other really great shows, so that's a cool one to hear about. So, assuming that this might be the only episode that some potential audience goers, listen to,
Yeah.
now's your last chance to get butts in seats. I mean, what do you tell them? Why should they come see Shrek?
Because while I don't necessarily believe that all theater should be, escapist, I do think that all theater should be magical. And it should make you believe in something that's bigger than what's available to you outside those walls. Right? Theater, particularly musical theater, is not naturalism. It can be close to realism, but I think all good theater has a degree of magic in it that just makes it extra special. Right? Shrek absolutely has that bit of magic. And just at the top of this, the world could stand to use a little bit more magic as well. I think Shrek's going to give that to you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get better than that. Well, we could just say goodbye, but because of what you do, I don't know. Do you have like a website or anything you like to promote? Like I could ask you, like, where could people find your next thing or music or something? Or I don't know.
You know what? I'll do it better. Come to the show, and my URL is in the program.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, Sebastian, our Deerfield Theater Shrek the Musical's Farquad, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's our show. Please share this podcast to help support the work of Deerfield Theater. An even better way to support us is to go see Shrek the Musical. To purchase tickets, visit deerfieldtheater.com or click the link in the show notes. Thank you to the production staff and cast for Shrek the Musical. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your preferred listening app to never miss an episode. Until next time, thanks to everyone who continues to support the arts. We'll see you at the theater.